one of the seats so you have everything you need for today's lesson?
Association meeting when we're done. That was the other.
Yes, okay. All right. Our outcomes today was making sure that you're connecting with someone who knows about the parent-teacher conferences. This is the model that was used at Thompson in previous years, and this is the model we're going to be using with 7th and 8th grade. 6th grade has a different model that they're using, where we have the teachers either in the mobiles, in the cafeteria, or the gym. Okay? We're also going to be talking a little bit about Avid today. How do we help students take and interact with effective notes? I just came back from an MTSS conference yesterday, and one of the things that research is suggesting is that focused note-taking is considered the number one strategy to use with students for learning. And it's not just taking the notes, it's interacting with the notes as well. So we're going to spend some time talking about that. And then one of the other things we want to do is to increase comfort in working with our students that are bilingual and English language learners and being able to identify the differences and how we can support them. And even today in the Alyssa's Mission survey that students filled out, there were statements in there that were a little bit confusing the way that they were worded for some of our students, and it's being aware that they need a little bit of extra support, so we're going to learn a little bit about that today. Okay. And so we have a question for you. This is just a little quiz for you, and I have a pen to give to the winner that can answer this quiz correctly. Did you want to push the button? I did. Okay, I'm sorry. An Avid pen, for anyone who can say, what does Avid stand for? You have to raise your hand and wait to be called on so I don't have mixed up. All right. I did see Sarah's hand go up first.
It's almost not fair enough that you're in the
Okay. So then why don't you pass? I think I saw Leslie's hand up. What is it?
All visual is delightful.
That is such a good guess, Leslie, but I'm sorry that's not exactly right. Would anyone else like to try? Who's hand? Oh, Adrian?
Advancement via individual determination.
Oh,
because I really want that pen.
Highlighters on the other side are very Okay, so advancement via individual determination, this is a system that's at Redling and Thompson and at East High School. And so we're going to be just learning a little bit about some of their strategies that are good for all kids. Okay, so it is advancement via individual determination. It is a college readiness program that is throughout our nation, and it is for students at Thompson in 7th and 8th grade. But it's important for 6th grade teachers to understand it because we start the identification process in 6th grade with input from our 6th grade teachers. What we've learned is that there are strategies that are really good for all students, and so we want to be able to share them with you to help them be successful at middle school and beyond. Okay. One of the things that Avid also talks about, I kind of messed this one up, is wicker. We talked about, so the first one you already have, but we talked about wicker in spring of last year. And wicker is a strategy that we want to focus on as well. Does anyone know or remember what WICOR stands for? You know what the W stands for. Any ideas? And that's okay because it was at the end of the year. But the W is for writing. I is for inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And what we've learned is that having one of these components in a lesson makes it a strong lesson. But when you have 3 or more of these in one lesson, it really increases the rigor and the engagement for students. And so we want to talk a little bit about that.
Hi, Jessica Beauchamp. I teach 8th grade Avid along with social studies.
Jeanette Katz, 7th grade Avid in science.
And so today we're going to talk about really wicker and how you can implement that into your classroom or into your specific area. And so today you have post notes on your seat, hopefully. And what we'd like you to do right now is take a little brainstorming time to think about possibly 1 or 2, specific strategies, maybe 3 if you want to go for it today on a Wednesday, and write them down, 1 on each Post-it note for strategies that you feel like meet 1 or a couple of these Wicker strategies. So take about a minute to brainstorm. Montgomery. So as you're writing and finishing up, we'd like you to hold on to the Post notes for later, and on your way out today, you are going to push them and put them on the Wicker posters that you see on your way out the door, right behind you.
All right, so just a while back I sent out a survey just to kind of feel where we were with some of our strategies that we're currently using in the classroom. So the survey says, nothing like Jim Carrey, we use a lot of graphic organizers, which is great for helping students process through their notes. 2-column notes, the mind mats, Cornell notes, interactive notebook. And then the other ones were people's ideas that they had. So like the doodle notes, annotated directly on the text, guided notes, and things like that. So what we want to do is really think about what types of note-taking you are working on. If we used to really push the Cornell notes in Avid, we are still, just for Jessica and I, we are kind of really hitting the Cornell notes. But focus notes takes a whole new level. It's not just Cornell notes. It's all of these types of notes that we are currently using in our classrooms and more. So we just want to make sure you understand that this is stuff that you're already doing, and we want to make sure that we can just make it more efficient and help the students learn even more. So after note-taking, one of the things in when you're taking notes is, what do you do with the notes after you take them? Do you just stick them in your folder, stick them in your binder? What are the kids actually doing with them? So a lot of people say that 25% that responded said they revised the notes. A lot of us, the major one was apply their learning from their notes, and I think that's the whole point behind people's taking notes, is you want them to apply that knowledge to what they're doing in class. But we're going to explain the importance of this after a quick video.
So the video that we're going to show you really explains all the time. Our students ask us the question of why are we learning this, why are we doing this, things like that. So this video clip is going to talk about kind of the why behind shifting into focused note taking.
The curve of forgetting. The curve of forgetting shows us how our memory works over time. This blue line represents your memory with no review sessions. On day 1, you attend lecture and pay attention, and you walk out knowing 100% of the new information you learned. On day 2, the blue line drops, representing the fact that if you don't use that information again, you lose 50 to 80% of the material you learned. Our brains don't retain information unless we use it on a regular basis. And you can see that by day 30, we recall only traces of that original lecture. Let's say you have a midterm on day 40. You'll have to relearn all the material from the lecture and subsequent ones. This can result in a feeling of panic before exams, and last-minute cramming combined with panic will give you less than stellar results on that exam. But you can change the pattern. The yellow line indicates what your memory would look like with regular review over the course of the term. On day 30, you'll retain the information you need to do well in that exam, and as an added benefit, you'll understand it even better. When you're exposed to the same information over and over, it becomes easier for you to retrieve that information from your memory. As you can see, if you review on a regular basis, you can reactivate the material with just 10 minutes of review after 1 day, 5 minutes after 1 week, and 2 to 4 minutes after 1 month. Every time you review, you become more and more familiar with the material, so it takes less time to review it the next time. Compare those few minutes, spread out over time, with the hour you would need to spend relearning material at the end of the semester. Reviewing over the course of the term will ultimately save you time and help you learn and understand material better than ever.
So that clip I actually showed to my students, and it really kind of hammered down like the why do we do this, why should you be interacting with your notes, things like that. Avid, as Jeanette kind of talked about, focuses really on focus note taking now rather than just Cornell notes in the Cornell way. So focus note and the sheet that you have, the handout that you have, which is digital, and we'll explain where to get that later, really focuses on 5 key components. The first step is taking your notes. So a lot of the reading specialists in this room will say, like, before you start reading, what is your purpose for reading? Why are you taking notes? How do you want to organize your notes? Things like that. That's that first component. The second component is really the processing. So going through, kind of sorting through your notes, really finding connections, things like that, and that kind of leads into the third step of connecting your thinking. What other material do you have or did you learn in another class that maybe can kind of jog your memory or deepen your thinking? The fourth step is summarizing and reflecting. So really we focus on kind of what are the key details that the article or that the reading or that the lesson really talks about, and how does it answer maybe the essential question or link back to other thinking. And then the last one is applying your learning.
Okay, so when you're having your students take these focus notes and then they're connecting their thinking, another thing is they're getting feedback from their peers, they're getting feedback from you, and they're just getting that feedback on what connections did you hear, how many times have you gone to a lecture or to a seminar with somebody or a meeting, and you hear things differently. It gives them an opportunity to kind of clarify and provide feedback for each other. So as before, I said, did you want to add something? Okay, so taking notes, here's just the different formats that we've talked about. So the big shift this year in Avid has been that we're not strictly Cornell notes. It's any type of notes, because what they were finding is that Cornell notes may not apply to every situation, and then kids get tired of taking the same format in every class. So trying to give them more options to take those notes. When you're processing your notes, this is huge. It's just giving them time to go back, look at their notes, and process. So on the back side, we kind of gave you a Cornell note revision checklist to kind of help the kids kind of, what can we do? What do you mean revise my notes? What do I need to add? What do I need to put in? So we tell them never to erase anything, just put one nice line through it. You know, don't color, because you might realize later, oh, maybe I shouldn't have put a line through it, so you can still read it. And then just making sure that they're identifying the main ideas and supporting details. So again, just doing the same stuff that we're already doing, but maybe just having them take it to the next step where they put in some revisions.
Or even talk with a peer, somebody else in their class to kind of process through and figure out what's nice is like maybe laying both notes next to each other and seeing what gaps there are and kind of adding in things and starring things that are the same on the same page.
And then connecting thinking. So think about beyond your notes. So how does this apply to you? Like, this is the why part. Why are we taking these notes? Why do I need to know this? They need to make those connections for themselves so that they truly understand it and can remember the information. So they should be asking a lot of questions. Okay, so you know the question types that they should be asking. They should be making predictions, and then they should definitely add their original thinking. Okay. So what do you know? What other classes does this connect to? And so forth.
The summarizing and reflecting piece really kind of drives home kind of an emphasis on like what you know already. And the reflecting, kind of thinking about your notes as a whole, what can you take away? What are the big picture components? And it asks, a strategy that could be used is kind of summarize your learning in one sentence. or reflect on kind of how you maybe took your notes today. Was the format the best way possible? And where do you plan to go from here?
So a good activity is called Just, where you just have 20 words that you can use to sum up the learning. And it really forces them to think, what is the important thing that they need to add? So if you give them that 20 words limit, it really forces them to kind of think. And then applying their learning. Okay, so, and one of the things that we learned in the survey is that a lot of us do Socratic seminars already, which is great, to apply their learning and take ownership of it, and philosophical chairs.
A big thing is when when students are taking notes, they want to kind of keep it in mind, what is their end product, what are they trying to and will be going to apply their learning towards. So like if it's a Socratic seminar, they want to make sure that they can, say for example, take their notes with them. Or if they are doing a writing piece, maybe a graphic organizer to brainstorm their thinking is a better option. So always kind of thinking about what is the best way to take my notes today.
And we have some of this information. We have a handout for you, but we also have some of this information in the staff folder that was shared with you at the very beginning of the year. And this PowerPoint is in there. But this is the staff folder, and there is an Avid folder listed here. And then here's the PowerPoint, but then also is a folder with some focus notes. So it has that curve of forgetting information in there, your handout, and then a few additional pieces of information. One of the reasons why the focus note-taking is a focus that we decided to consider for this year is because it really does include all the components of Wicker. There's writing the notes, you're going through inquiry as you're asking questions and going back to revisit your materials. You have an opportunity for collaboration with your peers or your teacher. You are organizing your thinking, and then you're obviously reading that material again as you're interacting with it. And so Wicker is just one of the, focus notes is just one of those power Wicker strategies.
So pretty please, if you use any of these strategies or have any great student work, if you could drop them in this share folder, we would really appreciate it. We need to document for Avid that we are fulfilling our agreement with this program, and one way is just through student samples. If you have a hard copy and you don't want to just give it to Jessica or I, we will get it in there and get it back to you. But it's just one way for us to document what we're doing here at Thompson.
What Avid does is it's looking again for some of those strategies that are really just research-based. It doesn't have to have necessarily anything to do with Avid, but there is that science-based evidence to support it being effective as a strategy, and using some of those strategies school-wide. So regardless of what grade, regardless of your content area, that there are some strategies that we are really using throughout the school. And focus note-taking is one of those strategies that we're really working towards to have everyone try some different ways to implement this in your classes. And that's why we would love just opportunities, just fun things that you have tried and maybe something didn't work as well, and maybe let us know. We would either support that or find other strategies that might be better or more helpful for you, that we can kind of help do some of that research and share that with you.
So if you have any questions, of course you can see any of us up here. We would love to kind of help you work with this inside your classroom. So if you have questions, you need strategies, anything like that, we have a ton for you. And then last but not least, on your way out, please put your Post-it notes. There's one more presentation, so don't leave. But place your Post-it notes on the correct posters behind you.
And just thank you to Jeanette and Jessica, who have learned a lot of strategies and been doing a lot of work this year. Thank you. Thank you. We have another amazing group of teachers that are working with our students